She craves certainty in a world that constantly shifts, not because she's weak, but because her emotional system is designed to detect instability before it ever becomes visible. Her senses are sharper in the relational realm. She feels the distance before it turns into detachment. She hears the shift in your tone before you even realize your mind's drifted. And while the world tells her to stay grounded, to be independent, to never need a man for emotional grounding, her soul still reaches out for something steady. Something consistent, something certain. This isn't about control. It's not about dominance. It's about anchoring in a life where everything is moving. Her body, her thoughts, her emotions, her roles. What she longs for more than anything is something that doesn't flinch when life storms. That's the essence of masculine energy she finds magnetic. Not just power, not just presence, but poise under pressure. You see, when you're grounded in your path, when your words align with your actions, when you don't just talk but lead with emotional clarity, she breathes easier. Her femininity unfolds, her guard lowers, and not because she's been manipulated, but because she senses safety. Certainty to her is not about predictability, it's about emotional integrity. Can she trust the way you show up? Will you mean what you say? Do your apologies come with changed behavior, not just charm? These aren't just romantic desires. They're survival mechanisms wrapped in longing. Every time you're inconsistent, her nervous system reads it like a warning sign. Not because she's insecure, but because she's biologically tuned to protect herself from emotional volatility. So when you say one thing and do another, it's not a small issue. It's felt deeply, because her world builds around what feels solid. When that collapses, she doesn't just question you, she starts questioning herself. You want to know why some women pull away when you become uncertain about what you want. It's not always because they've lost interest. Sometimes it's because the emotional ground beneath them began to shake. They'd rather step back than risk falling through. The irony is, most men interpret this need for certainty as pressure. They hear it as demand. But it's not that she's asking you to be perfect. She's asking you to be sure. Be sure about your direction. Be sure about your values. Be sure about what you're building. Because when a woman connects with a man who knows who he is and where he's going, her heart finds rhythm. Her storms find shelter, and no, this isn't about constantly reassuring her or bending to every mood swing. This is about leading with steadiness, showing her, through consistent presence, that you're not just available, but reliable. That when life tests both of you, you won't fold under the pressure. You'll adapt without losing yourself. You'll listen without needing to fix. You'll stay present without disappearing when things get uncomfortable. That's the kind of certainty she's drawn to. It's the kind that makes her lean in instead of questioning whether she should guard her heart again. Now here's the real truth most men never get told. When she feels emotionally safe with you, she becomes a different woman. She becomes more affectionate, more expressive, more playful. Why? Because her nervous system isn't in survival mode anymore. She doesn't have to wonder if she's being too much. She doesn't have to analyze every word you say. She can just be, and that, right there, is where love grows. Not in chaos, but in the calm consistency of someone who's emotionally dependable. So if you ever feel like she's testing you, pulling away, or emotionally spiraling, it might not be about drama. It might be a cry for anchoring, a call for certainty in a world that keeps shifting. And if you can hear that unspoken need, not with judgment, but with understanding, you'll realize her greatest emotional weakness isn't a burden. It's an invitation to lead, to stabilize, to be the kind of presence that doesn't just attract her, but transforms her, because the man who offers certainty in a world full of confusion doesn't just win her heart. He earns her peace. Her heart is wired to mirror your state, not because she lacks her own identity, but because she's emotionally attuned in a way most men aren't taught to recognize. She doesn't just hear your words, she feels your energy. She reads your tone, your pauses, your silence, and even the energy behind your presence. You could say you're fine, and she'll still feel the tension you didn't verbalize. You could tell her everything's under control, and she'll still detect the unrest you haven't admitted to yourself. That's not intuition. That's biology paired with emotional intelligence. You see, she's built to respond, not initiate. While a man is often expected to lead with direction, a woman flows with the atmosphere you create. If you're grounded, she'll feel grounded. If you're uncertain, she'll become anxious. If you're calm and composed, her heart settles even if she's having an off day. That's the nature of emotional mirroring. And it's not weakness, it's responsiveness. It's the reason she can read a room before anyone says a word. It's the same reason she can sense the shift in your mood before you've said a thing. Her nervous system is not just hers, it's relational. This is why your emotional state as a man matters more than you might think. When you're chaotic, reactive, or checked out, she doesn't just react to it, she reflects it. It's not because she's unstable. It's because she's linked to the energy you bring into the space. And no, this doesn't mean she's emotionally dependent. It means she's emotionally connected. There's a difference. It's the same reason a child mirrors a parent's stress, or why a group of people mirrors the energy of a leader. Emotional states are contagious, and if you're the one leading the relationship, what you bring sets the tone for what she becomes in your presence. That's why when you become emotionally centered, you're not just benefiting yourself, you're giving her a space to rest. You're giving her permission to relax her defenses, and in that safety, you'll meet the version of her that's soft, vibrant, affectionate, sometimes even playful, not because she changed overnight, but because you did. You started showing up in a way her nervous system could trust. And once she trusts your presence, she starts expressing who she really is beneath the surface. That's when the magic happens, not when she's trying to impress you, but when she feels free enough to stop performing. But here's the challenge most men don't understand. When you're emotionally unavailable, she doesn't just feel neglected. She starts overcompensating. She tries to bridge the gap. She tries to pull answers out of silence. She asks questions not to control you, but to find you. Her frustration is often a mirror of your emotional absence, and her so-called overreaction, sometimes it's just your reflection, coming back louder than you expected. Because if you've shut down, she can't find her rhythm, and without rhythm, everything feels off. That's why presence matters, not just physical presence, but emotional presence. When you walk into a room and your mind is elsewhere, she feels the disconnect before a word is spoken. But when you walk in and you're fully present, when your attention is deliberate, when your energy is calm, when your words match your mood, she reflects it effortlessly, and not because she's performing for you, but because she feels safe to be. If you want to lead with power, don't just focus on being right, focus on being steady. If you want to connect deeply, don't just memorize what to say. Learn how to feel what you bring into the space. Because the truth is, your emotional state is a silent conversation happening all the time, and she's always listening, even when you're not speaking. So the next time you wonder why she's suddenly distant, reactive, or unsure, ask yourself, not what she's doing wrong, but what emotional climate you might be unknowingly setting. Are you grounded in your purpose? Are you calm in your communication? Are you emotionally present when it matters? Because when you elevate your state, you elevate hers, not by demanding change, but by embodying the change yourself. Because the kind of man who chooses to regulate himself, to lead with emotional strength, and to stay present when it would be easier to escape, that man doesn't just influence her mood, he shapes her experience. And in a world full of emotional chaos, he becomes the one thing she doesn't have to second guess. Emotional abandonment hits her like a storm, not because she's overly sensitive, but because connection to her is not a luxury, it's a lifeline. She can handle silence, she can survive distance, but what truly unsettles her is presence without emotion. When you're there, but not really there, that's when the storm brews inside her. That's when she starts to feel like a stranger in the relationship. Not because she's needy, but because the thing she values most, emotional closeness, suddenly disappears without a word, and she's left standing in the wreckage, trying to make sense of it. It's the disconnection that hurts more than any disagreement ever could. You could argue, you could clash, you could have tension, but if she still feels you in that moment, there's something to work with, there's energy, there's presence. But when you shut down, when you go cold, when your eyes look at her, but your heart isn't in the room anymore, that's when she breaks, because emotional abandonment feels like being erased in real time. It feels like loving someone who's slowly fading into the background while you pretend everything's fine. Most men don't even realize they're doing it. They think that retreating into silence is a form of control, or worse, peacekeeping. But to her, it's a punishment she can't understand. One day, you're laughing with her, holding her close, making her feel seen. And the next, you're withdrawn, distracted, distant. No explanation, no context, just a void that's not just confusing, it's destabilizing, because now she's left replaying every moment, every word, every shift in your tone, trying to trace back where it all started, not because she enjoys overthinking, but because you left her emotionally mid-sentence, and it's not always about having all the answers. It's not even about solving every issue. It's about not disappearing when things get emotionally heavy. It's about staying emotionally engaged even when you're tired, even when you're frustrated, even when you don't know what to say. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be there. Because when you check out, she doesn't feel like she's giving too much. She feels like she's talking to a wall. And after enough time, that starts to convince her that maybe her emotions are too much. That maybe she is too much. This is how emotional abandonment shapes her self-worth. She doesn't just question your love. She starts to question her value. Was I too emotional? Was I asking for too much? Did I push him away? You may have gone silent to buy time to reflect or just to decompress. But to her, that silence isn't neutral. It's loud. It's filled with all the words you're not saying, all the love you're not expressing, all the tension you're leaving for her to carry alone. And eventually, she stops trying, not because she stopped caring, but because she got tired of reaching out to someone who emotionally checked out every time things got real. But when a man chooses to stay present emotionally, when he learns to sit with discomfort, to listen even when he feels defensive, to hold space without immediately needing to fix, he doesn't just create connection. He builds trust. He teaches her that vulnerability won't be met with absence, that love doesn't have to feel like walking on eggshells, that opening her heart won't be punished with emotional withdrawal. And that's what so many women are yearning for, not grand gestures, not constant validation, but emotional availability, the willingness to show up when things are messy, to not run when she cries, to not shut down when she's scared, to hold her hand not just in public, but in those silent, shaky moments where her voice trembles and she asks, "Are you still with me?" And your answer, without words, has to be yes, because when a man abandons her emotionally, she doesn't just lose the relationship. She loses her mirror, she loses her safe space, and if it happens often enough, she'll build walls so high that even love can't climb them again. Not because she wants to push people away, but because the pain of being emotionally invisible is too deep to risk twice. So if you care about her, if you value what you've built, stay emotionally awake. Don't vanish when things get uncomfortable. Don't punish her vulnerability with silence, because the man who learns how to stay, even when it's easier to hide, becomes more than just a partner. He becomes her place of peace in a world that's full of storms. Her self-worth dances with your attention, not because she doesn't know who she is, but because the man she opens up to holds a mirror to her value. You may think your glances, your presence, your words are just routine parts of a relationship, but to her they are signals. They tell her whether she still matters, whether she's still seen, still felt, still chosen. And even the strongest woman, the most independent one, who moves through life with grace and confidence, yes, even she feels a quiet shift in her center when your attention begins to fade. It's not that she relies on you to validate her existence. She knows who she is. She's built her world, overcome her battles, and stood tall through things you may never fully understand. But when she lets you in, really lets you in, she ties a thread of her emotional worth to how you engage with her. Not because she's weak, but because she's human, because intimacy for a woman isn't just physical, it's about being emotionally acknowledged, and your attention, whether deliberate or distracted, doesn't just affect the moment. It affects the way she sees herself in your life. The shift happens quietly. You used to look at her like she was the most captivating thing in the room. You used to listen like her words carried weight. But now your phone gets more eye contact than she does. You hear her, but don't really listen. You're present, but you're not really with her. And little by little, she starts to feel like a background character in a story she thought you were writing together. And when she brings it up, not through direct words, but through subtle cues, through her silence, through her withdrawal, it's not to start a fight. It's to feel significant again, to feel prioritized. You see, when a woman opens her heart to a man, she's not just giving affection, she's offering emotional gravity, she's investing in something real, and when she feels that emotional currents start to go cold, it's not just confusion, it's grief. Because something sacred starts to feel like it's slipping away. She won't always say it out loud, because she doesn't want to seem needy, but it shows in the way she doesn't reach out like she used to, in the way she guesses whether her presence still excites you, in the way she stops dressing up just for you, stops talking about her dreams, stops asking about yours. That's not laziness, that's disconnection. That's her heart quietly reacting to the absence of your attention, because for a woman, attention is oxygen. It tells her she matters, not just out of habit, but by choice. It reminds her that in a world full of options, you still see her. That the woman who shares your life is still the one who lights up your mind. It's not about compliments or grand gestures. It's about presence, the way you watch her when she talks, the way you notice her energy when she's had a long day, the way you reach for her hand even when nothing is wrong, just to say, "You're still my person." And when you give her that, when your attention is intentional, consistent, and warm, something incredible happens. She glows differently, she laughs more freely, she gives more of herself because she no longer wonders whether she's still enough. You've answered that question for her with your consistency, and that, more than anything, makes her feel safe to love you fully. But when you withhold that attention, when you only engage when it's convenient, when you stop seeing the little things that matter to her, it chips away at her confidence in the relationship, and not just in you, but in herself. That's how powerful your attention is. It's a currency. It can build or it can bankrupt, and she'll rarely beg for it. She'll just begin to move differently, because she would rather lose you than keep losing herself. So if you value her, if you care about the bond you've built, don't wait for her to pull away to start noticing again. Don't wait until her laughter fades to start wondering what changed, because often the thing that's missing is something so simple, your attention. And the man who learns how to give it not just when it's easy, but when it matters most, becomes the one she never doubts, the one she trusts not just with her time, but with her self-worth. Her need for emotional reassurance is often misread as drama, but if you look closely, if you truly listen, it's not drama at all. It's a question hidden in the noise, a silent plea that says, "Are we still okay?" You might hear it as overreacting. You might feel like she's being irrational, too sensitive, or making something out of nothing. But underneath what may seem loud or intense is usually something far more simple and raw, the desire to feel emotionally safe again. You have to understand, a woman's emotional world is layered. She doesn't usually react to what's happening on the surface. She reacts to what she feels is shifting underneath. And when she senses a change in your tone, your interest, your attention, she doesn't always know how to process that through calm logic. So it comes out in waves, questions, concern, frustration, maybe even tears. And while many men pull away in those moments, thinking she's being too much, what she's actually doing is reaching out, trying to reconnect, trying to feel secure in a space that suddenly feels uncertain. It's not that she wants to argue, it's that she wants to feel held, not just physically, but emotionally. When you're consistent, present, and engaged, she doesn't question the connection, but when your energy shifts, even slightly, her internal radar picks it up. That radar isn't broken, it's actually a reflection of how deeply she's invested. Because when a woman starts asking, "Do you still love me the way you did?" or "Why do you feel so distant lately?" those aren't accusations. They're invitations, invitations for you to lean in, to calm the storm inside her, not by dismissing it, but by understanding it. But sadly, many men have been conditioned to view this emotional vulnerability as overbearing, to label it as drama rather than recognizing it as depth. And instead of responding with empathy, they respond with withdrawal. They pull back, they get defensive, they shut down, and in doing so, they validate her worst fear, that she's alone in the relationship, that she cares more, that she's asking for something she shouldn't need. But what she's asking for isn't excessive, it's human, it's relational. Emotional reassurance is not weakness, it's maintenance. You don't wait until your car breaks down to check the engine. You maintain it because it matters. That's what she's trying to do with the relationship. She's checking the emotional engine, making sure it's still running, making sure the foundation is still there, because that's what allows her to relax, to open up, to give more. You might think she should already know how you feel. You may believe your love is obvious. But for her, love is confirmed through presence, through consistency, through the little things that say, "You still matter." She doesn't want a man who only says, "I love you," when it's convenient. She wants a man whose actions reflect that love when she's feeling insecure, unsure, or overwhelmed. That's when it counts the most. That's when she needs it. Not because she's high maintenance, but because emotional closeness is how she breathes inside a relationship. She isn't testing you to manipulate you. She's testing to see if she can still lean on you emotionally. She's asking, "Will you show up when I'm not at my best?" Because if you only give her reassurance when things are smooth, she'll start to wonder if your love has conditions. But if you can be steady when she's shaky, calm when she's loud, present when she's spiraling, then you become more than just her partner. You become her peace. So next time she asks, "Do you still love me?" or questions something small that seems insignificant to you, pause. Don't roll your eyes, don't shut down, don't label it as drama. Instead, see the truth under the surface. She's not fighting with you. She's fighting for the relationship, and in that moment, you have a choice. You can make her feel like she's too much, or you can make her feel safe, heard, and deeply valued, because the man who learns to decode her emotional waves instead of resisting them doesn't just earn her trust. He becomes the reason she no longer has to question her worth. Her deepest fear is being too much and still not enough. It's the silent battle she fights every day behind her smile, behind her strength, behind all the ways she tries to hold it together. Because she's been told to be soft but not weak, to be confident but not intimidating, to speak up but not too loud, to feel deeply but not too emotionally. And somewhere along the way, she started believing that no matter how she shows up, there's always something about her that needs to be adjusted, dialed back, or reshaped to fit someone else's comfort. She walks this tightrope, constantly balancing how much of herself she's allowed to show. If she loves too hard, she's called clingy. If she pulls back, she's labeled cold. If she's ambitious, she's intimidating. If she leans on you, she's too dependent. So she questions herself, not just occasionally, but habitually. And even when she seems calm, composed, and self-assured, there's often a voice in the back of her mind whispering, "Was that too much? Did I say too much? Feel too much? Expect too much?" This fear doesn't come out of nowhere. It's shaped by past experiences, times she was criticized for being expressive, punished for being vulnerable, or rejected when she finally let her walls down. And what hurts most is not that she was left, but that she was left after showing up fully. So now, every time she opens her heart, there's a quiet fear that echoes. If I give all of me, will that be the very reason I lose him? That's why your presence, your response, your ability to hold space matters more than you know. She doesn't need you to fix her fears. She just needs to know that her fullness won't be met with judgment, that the parts of her that feel too much in her own mind won't make you walk away. When she breaks down after being strong for too long, when her emotions rise in ways even she doesn't fully understand, those aren't moments to retreat from. They're moments to lean into, because what she fears most isn't just rejection, it's rejection after vulnerability. She can handle a no, she can handle indifference. What she can't easily heal from is offering all of herself only to be told, directly or indirectly, that it wasn't enough, or worse, that it was too much to handle. That's the wound that lingers, that's the fear that stays. But when a man sees her entirely, her passion, her depth, her contradictions, and doesn't flinch, something shifts inside her. She starts to believe, maybe for the first time, that she doesn't have to shrink to be loved, that she doesn't have to perform to be accepted, that her softness isn't inconvenient, that her intensity isn't overwhelming, that her presence alone, in all its layers, is enough. You see, the man who can witness her emotional spectrum without retreating gives her a gift no one else has: permission to exhale, to be, to unfold without fear, and that's not just comforting, it's transformative. Because when a woman feels emotionally safe, she becomes radiant. She no longer guesses her worth in your life. She no longer tiptoes around your reactions. She stops editing her truth, and in that space, she doesn't just love you, she trusts you fully. That's the power you hold, not in trying to change her or understand every emotion, but in choosing not to run when she reveals the parts of herself that she's learned to hide. She's not asking you to carry her pain. She's asking you to not be afraid of it, to meet her there without flinching, to look at the storm in her eyes and still say, "I see you, I'm still here." Because when you do that, when you embrace her in her wholeness, something remarkable happens. She stops fearing she's too much. And for the first time, she stops wondering if she'll ever be enough. She simply becomes, and in that becoming, she offers a version of herself most people will never know, not because she was hiding, but because she was waiting for a love strong enough to handle all of her.